grab a beer, and pull up a chair. Welcome to the NorthwoodsBeerGuy podcast. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the NorthwoodsBeerGuy podcast. This is Mike, the NorthwoodsBeerGuy. And this week, we are actually on location, kind of a special on location. We are all the way over in Lake Mills, Iowa at 5 Alarm Brewing. And we are here to talk brewing and beers and stuff with the guy that you've heard us reference several times on the podcast, that when we have a question, when Jim and I don't have an idea what we're talking about, sometimes he texts me, sometimes he doesn't, I don't know. But it's my brother, Brian. Hello, Brian.
Hi.
So we came down here. We're kind of doing, it's kind of a cool thing because this is the first time that we were actually interviewing an actual brewer. So hopefully you studied up and so you can answer some questions. Or, well, you can make it up because we won't know if you're lying to us or not. So we got Brian here. We also have my uncle Larry. Larry, how's it going?
Hello, everyone.
And my dad is here. Dave, how are you doing?
Yep, the old man's here.
There you go. So this is kind of the crew that, I guess you could say I'm kind of their sensei. I got them all into craft beer at one point, I would say, I think, right?
I think you're right.
So I guess to start off, Brian, why don't you, I know the story on how you kind of got into it, but our listeners don't. So why don't you kind of fill them in a little bit? How did you get started in brewing, or, what kind of spurred on you wanting to do brewing?
Well, we started out, we always just drank normal American lagers to begin with. And you would always bring back sampler packs of different beers for us to try. So that kind of introduced us to craft beer. And then one year we always went out to Iola, Wisconsin to the big car show out there. And we decided to go and tour Point Brewing the one year. So we went over there, tried their beers, took the tour, and told Mike here that I could do this.
I was going to say, I remember when he looked at me and go, I could do this. I'm like, what? Brew beer? And I'm like, okay.
So I came back home from that trip and bought a starter kit and just been doing it ever since.
So now I remember when you first started, you would talk to somebody and, you always see like the Mr. Beer thing. And didn't you say you would talk to somebody and they said, yeah, you really don't want to start with like plastic carboys or anything like that?
Yeah, plastic. A lot of people use plastic, but it is hard to clean them properly. Okay. Yeah. They end up getting scratches in the plastic, and then bacteria can grow in the cracks or the scratches. And so, but they told me right from the start, don't waste your money on the Mr. Beer kit.
Okay.
Go to the brew shop and actually get an actual kit from them.
Yeah. So now, when you started brewing at home, so you were a home brewer, and when you first started off, you were doing extract.
Yep.
Brewing, right? So can you explain to our listeners the difference between extract and all grain?
What they do is the companies will boil down. They'll start like the wort, basically, and get all the sugars out of the grain. And it makes it super concentrated, and they make a real thick syrup, it looks like, out of it. And that's the extract that you can put in. They have two different types. There's either liquid extract or there's powdered extract also.
So is one easier than the other, would you say, or do they both kind of have their advantages?
Yeah, extract brewing turns out a lot sweeter beers, it seems like, and it is hard to mess them up.
Okay, gotcha.
You can do it, but it is harder to mess up extracts.
Okay. And now how long were you home brewing?
16 years.
Wow.
Home brewed for.
Okay. And then
the last 2.5 years brewing here.
Okay. So now at 5 Alarm, it's kind of a cool place. It has like a firehouse type of a theme with all sorts of, fire truck pictures and that kind of a theme.
Right now, there's 4 owners, and they were all members of the local fire department. Okay. So that's how they came up with the firefighter theme.
Okay, nice. Well, we'll get continue on this conversation, but let's. I see you got some beer sitting here. Why don't we? It looks like Larry's getting a little thirsty. So
it is very hot out today.
So what are we going to try? I guess, and if you want to kind of give us what we should be looking for, and
the first one we'll try it's a sweet dark cherry sour.
Okay.
It's 5% alcohol. It's more like a fruited sour. If the listeners have had fruited sours, it's a little less tart than your standard kettle sours are. A little more, you get more like the natural tartness from the fruit puree.
So have you, not to cut you off, but have you noticed, like, back in the day when you thought sour, it was like super sour. And to me, it seems like now sours are more almost overly sweet. A lot of them are. Is there a reason, do you think?
I think it's just following like some of the trends of what the customers want.
Right.
It seems like the sweeter sours have been a lot more popular than the old ones that made your jaw tighten up.
Right. Okay, so getting back to the beer. So this is what did you say?
This is a sweet dark cherry sour.
Okay. Oh, it almost has like the color is almost like a tangerine-y kind of a color. Definitely almost like a hazy IPA look to it. That is not bad. Like I said, you can get the cherry. You have just a little hint of right there in the back of your jaw. That's pretty good.
Kind of has like a fruit punch flavor to it.
Yeah, there you go. That is definitely something that it reminds me of. So what's the ABV on that one?
5%.
5%. Okay. Yeah. And it's sweet dark cherry.
Yep.
So when you're making it, are you putting actual cherries in or is it like
It's a cherry puree.
Okay.
It's a bag of purified
like
ground up
cherries
cherries.
kind of thing? Sure. Well, Larry, I guess we'll start with you if you don't mind. What did you think of that one?
I like that one. Sometimes when we're down here and it's really slow, we like to mix some things. And if you mix this one with a pear cider, it'll smell and taste like a green Jolly Rancher.
Really? So out of 5, what kind of score would you give it?
I'm not like a huge sour person, but I would still probably go a 4 on this one.
Okay. Dad, what do you think?
I'm definitely not a sour person. I'd only go about maybe a 2.5 because it's enough where, it gives you a little bit of tightening, but a little more than I want. So.
Right. I suppose
I'm kind of partial, so I'm not going to.
5.
Can I give myself a 6?
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was very good. Like I said, I'm going to go like a 3. It had, like you said, just enough to where you had a little bit of a tartness to it. But I did like it a lot better than some of those that we've had before where you're just like, get lockjaw from it. So, yeah, that was really good. And, yeah, we'll have to look into that whole taste like a Jolly Rancher thing. That sounds kind of interesting.
Do that at the end.
Sure. Yeah. Wait a minute. We're going to have to drink more?
Maybe.
It's a terrible thing, but someone has to do it.
Yeah.
It's for research anyway.
Okay, so another question I had for you, Brian, and like I said, it's just one of those things that I've been noticing. And what do you think of the trend in pickle beers? Because
Pickle beers are very popular all of a
I
sudden.
was gonna say I've had some different ones where, and it's just like anything. They're widely different flavor because there's one that it tastes like you're just drinking the juice right out of a pickle jar. And then you got I had another one that it tasted more like just almost like a raw cucumber than pickle. It wasn't, there's just a wide range there. And I don't know, it just seems like every time you turn around, there's another one and another one, and I will say this, it's kind of funny because Distil, that does Das Vidania, they have a Sucker Punch sour, and that's when it tasted like you're drinking out of the pickle jar. Well, they also have a spicy pickle, and that one's got some spice to it. And then they have a barrel-aged pickle beer. And the last time that I was down there, I tried it. I'm like, I got to try it. Oh my gosh, it was good. They don't have it canned or bottled. You can only get it at the brewery. And it's just, I give them credit for trying like the barrel aging thing. That's the only barrel aged pickle beer I've seen. But I just was wondering what you thought of it because it just seems like kind of out of left field,
It is, but it's surprising how many people love pickle beers.
Yeah.
I have made them. I've made a normal pickle beer and I've made a spicy pickle, and I put off doing it for as long as I could. I had a older lady that comes in here, her and her husband do, and she basically yelled at me for a year.
For not having it?
Yeah, for not having it. And every time she'd see me, she'd just give me a disappointed look. And so I finally had to break down and figure out how to make her pickle beer. So.
Okay. So is it a difficult process or is it?
No, you brew a standard base beer, and then the way I've been doing it is, we just add a whole bunch of dill pickles into it and age it for at least a week.
Now, is that similar to how you do, like you brew a beer with peppers? Is it similar or is that a different
Peppers are
process?
harder.
Are they?
Depending on how you do it. There are extracts you can buy, to add into the beer, so that takes a lot of it out. But a lot of people will still roast peppers on the grill and then scrape out the seeds or whatnot. And basically you're drying out the oils, so that way it's not going to affect the beer.
Okay. Interesting.
It's surprising to me how popular pickle beers actually are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because you've heard Toby on here, Toby, and his wife loves them, and he's not a fan. And he was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and we had the one that tasted like you're drinking right out of the pickle jar. And the next time, before we were recording the next week podcast, he goes, "Yeah, thanks for getting me in trouble." And I go, "Getting you in trouble? What are you talking about?" "Yeah, so the podcast came out on Friday, and all of a sudden I hear, Toby!" And he goes, I turn around, and it was his wife. "I can't believe that you were picking on that. That's my favorite pickle beer." So he got in trouble because he didn't care for it, and it's his wife's favorite pickle beer. So it was kind of funny. So like you said, it seems like you love them or you hate them,
I like Brian's spicy pickle beer that he has. People really love that when you put some Bloody Mary mix in there.
Oh, sure. That's what I kept saying. I go, I bet you if you mixed it with a Bloody Mary, it'd probably be pretty good.
It is very good.
So. Well, on that note, what's the next beer we're going to try?
The next one is Dalmation Ale.
Okay.
That is a very mellow ale. I wanted basically like a lawnmower beer. That's what I wanted. Just something that if you can have several of them and not get messed up, and it's only 4.8%.
Okay.
It has a little bit of, seems like it has a little bit of a sweet note on the backside of it.
Yep.
Not overly bitter, I don't think. It's only 15 IBUs.
I'd say there's a slight bitterness to it, but not bad at all. Looks like a normal beer. That kind of color. You know what I'm saying? Like you would think if somebody came in wanting, "Hey, what do you have that's like this?"
Yeah, exactly.
It's very popular with Busch Light drinkers. So
that's what I was kind of getting at. Yeah, that's pretty smooth. You could definitely drink a number of those. Yeah. You said 4.5?
4.8.
4.8, okay. Dalmation Ale. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. So, Dad, what did you think of that one?
It's smooth. It goes down good. I'd give it a 2.7.
Okay. Brian, 7. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. I could definitely see on a hot day like today that it would go down really easy. So, yeah, I'd say like a 2.9 to a 3 easily. Larry?
That's what I would go a 3. As you know, we drink a lot of high octane beers. And
yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to just have a nice, easy drinker, and that would fall into that category.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you were always more of the IPA guy.
Not to start with, if you remember.
Oh, that is
but
true.
I forced myself for a whole year to drink nothing but IPAs. And now they're one of my favorite beers.
Well, and that's what I did with, the started for me was with IPAs. Took a year. I just drank as many of them as I could. And now I don't mind them at all. No. And then I did the same thing a couple of years ago with sours. For the most part, I can handle them, but there's still some that you get that you're like, oof, But yeah, it's rather interesting now.
I don't think I can make that kind of commitment with the sours. But.
Oh, come on. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So, all right. Well, yeah. So what other things do you see going on out there that, is there any other trends you're thinking are going to start coming, or you just?
I'm starting to see a lot more like the smoothie IPAs, smoothie sours. We haven't really ventured into here yet, but it's on the list of ones I want to make.
I've noticed because they're like really thick. Some of them are, and it's like,
yep.
So how do they? Well, we won't get into trade secrets on that stuff. It is rather interesting, though, how just like you said, even in IPAs, when it was your IPA, then you started getting into your hazy IPAs. Then you're getting in, there's all these different
milkshake
IPAs. It's just kind of interesting how somebody does something that all of a sudden people start hearing about, and everybody starts doing it.
Yeah.
And which is good. I mean, it brings out a lot of different things in the market for the consumer, so that's good. I guess. Let's start drinking again. I'm running out of questions. I got a question for you. So on one of the podcasts, I'm sure you heard, because when Jim's reading, he does the research. Since he's retired and such, sitting at home, he does this research, and then so we start reading this stuff, and now I'm seeing where these companies are all talking about, this beer is crushable. Now, is that an actual thing, or is that just a marketing?
That's a technical term.
And you as a brewer can't go into.
Yeah, we can't talk about it. No, it's just another way. It's a hipster way of saying that you can drink a lot of this.
That's what I figured, but I thought, okay, because, you always see, all of a sudden there'd be like this little buzzword and it shows up all over. And you're like, okay, is this legitimate thing, but I figured it was just more of
marketing.
More of a marketing thing. That figures. All right. Well, what's number 3 we're going to try?
The next one here is the strawberry wheat.
It does have a little bit of a reddish, kind of an ambery, not quite as dark as an amber, but so what are the deets on this one?
It's 5.5% ABV, 11 IBUs. I had made that one with strawberry puree.
You can definitely taste strawberry. Wow, that's not bad. Tell, like you said, between this and the Dalmation Ale, you can tell the difference. Even though this one, or the Dalmation one, is a little bit lower, right, for ABV?
Yes.
But this one, it just has a little more, the flavor is more.
Right.
There's kind of a creamy flavor to it. I have a lot of flaked wheat in it when I brew it. And we've been playing around with different flavored wheat beers. I always try to keep one on hand, one on tap. So my daughter was giving me a hard time to make a strawberry one.
So that your wheat beers are popular.
Yep. In this area, the blueberry wheat, I have made a mango wheat. This one, I'm going to do a tangerine. They're very popular with a lot of ladies like the ciders down here, but they will drink these wheat beers also.
Oh, sure. I can understand that for sure. So, Brian's going to give it like an 8. So I liked it. I think I'm going to go like a 3.2 on that. I like that. That was, like I said, it had just the right amount of strawberry, I thought, where you got that flavor, but it wasn't overpowering.
Yep.
I've noticed on some of the other fruit beers from other companies that sometimes it's either way muted where you can't hardly taste it, or it's like so over the top. Yeah. It's just like, because you remember Dragon's Milk had that raspberry one, and oh my gosh, it was so strong a raspberry. That's all you got, But no, I like this one.
I'd give it a solid 3.
That's it?
That's it.
No other comments?
No. I got to stay in the good graces of your brother. I drink a lot of his beers.
Dad, what do you think of that one?
That's a little better. I like 2.8 on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was good. Oh, let's see. What else can we talk about? I'm trying to think of what other questions. So I know that you had answered this. I think I had mentioned it on the podcast before, but like the difference between ales and lagers when you're brewing them. Can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Yeah, the ales and lagers, they're fermented differently. I can make the same recipe for either one, but it comes down to the lagers ferment from the bottom up, and ales ferment from the top down, so it takes longer for the ale or for the lagers to ferment. You want to keep them at a constant temperature, like 50 degrees in the fermenter.
So when you say, not to cut you off, I apologize. When you're saying from the bottom up, what do you mean?
A lot of times, like in your ales, when you put your yeast in, it'll just start eating.
Oh, so
from the top of the fermenter, yes.
Okay. So
it'll even eat the sugars.
And it's a different yeast also,
yes,
right?
Yep.
Okay. And that yeast, sinks and then starts going up.
Yep.
Interesting. Huh.
And it, like I said, the ales can ferment. We try to keep them around 68 degrees. They're a little warmer yeast strain, and the lagers, you want to keep them around 50.
Okay.
If they get over 54, then they start getting off flavors.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of something, because when you taste them, you can definitely taste the difference between an ale and a lager. And some people don't like lager, some people love whatever, each of their own. But it's definitely a different flavor to it. And then like your Belgian beers, because they use like a Belgian yeast, right? Because that's got an entirely different flavor.
Yeah, you get it's a very unique flavor.
Yeah.
I want to see what it is.
People always say you can taste like banana or whatever in it, and it's just a different thing, but it's basically the yeast is what is bringing these extra.
Yep, they're giving it those esters. Our next beer here is a Dunkelweizen, and you'll actually taste some of those banana esters in that one.
Well, since you brought it up, why don't it looks very promising.
It's very good.
That one is a little higher at 6.3% ABV.
Okay.
23 IBUs.
Smells like a Dunkel. Oh, yeah, you get that little bit. You can tell there's that flavor in there.
Yep.
So is there a Dunkel and a Dunkelweizen? Are they the same or is it different?
There are different recipes.
Okay.
This is a Dunkelweizen, which is basically a German dark wheat beer. And there are Dunkels also that are lagered.
Okay. Yeah, because I often wondered about that.
So I'll throw a question out there for you, Brian. Anything that is a Weizen, is that typically a wheat beer?
Yes.
So you
It has some wheat in it.
Because we've had, there's a number of them that are very good. And it's funny because there's people that just don't like wheat beers, or they don't like your Dunkelweizens, your Hefeweizens, whatever reason, because it's got that flavor, and it's like, yeah, but that's kind of a good, a good flavor,
I like Hefeweizen.
And then what else? I'm trying to think of I'm drawing a blank, and as soon as we get done, it'll pop into my head and I'll ask you about it. But just another, when we did the tour of Spotted Cow, or New Glarus, then we went to those other breweries, remember, and they had there's that small one, and what was the name of that beer? It was another style like this, but it was not a Maibach, but forget it. It was really good. But I mean, that's similar kind of a thing. Yeah, I like this. I'm going like a 3.4. I really think this has really good flavor. And this is, it's one of those where if a person has never had any kind of Weizen before, I think that I would have them start with a Dunkelweizen, honestly, over a Hefeweizen, because I think this has a little bit more, it's a little darker flavor, in my opinion, but it's not, sometimes the Hefeweizens get really a lot of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A lot of people have really liked this one down here. There's a lot of people that come in, but they're worried about the dark beers. They don't like the dark beers. They don't want the coffee flavor.
Yep.
We have them try the Dunkelweizen. They'll end up ordering it. Yeah. Because it looks really dark, but it doesn't have the flavor of a lot of the dark beers.
Exactly. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to 3.4. What do you think?
I'll go 3.5 easy.
3.5.
Same for you. Yeah, like I said, that is really good. I'm impressed. Who knew?
I did. I had to use a lot of force and threatening to get him.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I got a text message one day saying, "You ain't going to believe it. Your brother finally brewed a Dunkelweizen again." I was like, all right, that's good. So anybody have any other questions? I'm trying to think of some other stuff that we talked about in the podcast. Or is there, what other stuff would you want to talk about?
One thing I forgot to text you about on one of your previous ones, you were asking about the dry hopping.
Yes.
Double dry hopped. The dry hopping, yes, it just adds flavor and aroma to it. It does not add any bitterness.
Okay.
And what that is we actually, after primary fermentation is done, so after the first week of the beer fermenting, we'll drain the yeast off that's fallen out. And then you add hops into the fermenter at that point.
Okay.
Double dry hop, they'll do like 2 hop additions. So they'll do either one during primary and then one after that, or they'll do 2 separate ones after primary is done.
Okay, so when you're talking dry hopping, what is that?
You're just adding hop pellets into the fermenter. So you're not boiling it.
Okay.
You're not
so if it's
any
boiled, is it called wet hopping? There's just
no wet hops. Dry hopping is just a term they use for adding them into the secondary fermentation.
Gotcha. Okay.
There are wet hops. If you see a beer that's wet hopped, that means they use the hop cones right after they pick them, and they throw them in for the boil.
Okay. Now I know a lot of times we've talked before about when, do you use actual hops or are you using the pellets? Do you use, I'm guessing most of the time you're probably using pellets, but
yeah, 99% of the time we use pellets.
I think most of the brewers do too, because didn't you say it's like a cleaner process when you're cleaning?
It's way easier to deal with the hop pellets than the leaf hops.
Okay.
There it is a mess.
Are they? Okay. So bummer that you're growing hops.
I do use them. I do we did the Spruce Tip IPA with fresh hops.
I haven't seen my check on that yet.
It's in the mail.
Oh, it's in the mail. So the story on that one is, Brian was talking to me about he wanted to do a spruce tip, and I just happened to have spruce trees, and so I just started picking. Once they got about an inch long or a little longer, and I'd go and pick them. Which, of course, now we sold that house, but luckily my brother-in-law Doug has the extra trees that we couldn't plant, so I've already gotten in to keep picking them. But that was really, really good. And when I came over, when he brewed that first batch, I liked it because first time we had it was when we were over at Iola at the time. Remember we went to one brewery over there that I don't think it's Cozy Yak, and I don't think it's in business anymore. But they had a Spruce Tip IPA, and the first year we had it was really good. Yes. And so we talked, kicked it around for a long time. And so, like I said, I just went out and started picking. Well, you had told me that another gentleman had gave you spruce tips, and it ended up like
they were
pine cones.
They were pine cones.
Yeah. I was like, don't use those. I know what spruce tip is and I'd always pick them off of the side of the trees that was next to the driveway, so they would quit growing closer to the.
They were green. but they had a lot of sap coming out of them.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So do you still have, because remember I gave you.
Yep, I still have that last batch.
that I
Yeah, they're in the
picked this
freezer.
spring, or last spring, yeah. So, okay.
Have to do another one. That beer really was interesting because it changed a lot from when we finally ended up using it up, because they let it aged for probably 7 months in the cooler there. And after aging 6 months, 7 months, oh man, it was
Even
unbelievable.
better than-
Yeah.
It was a lot better the longer you let it sit.
The spruce really mellowed, and it was more
Well, because
balanced.
even when I tasted it, though, I didn't think it was over the top strong or anything.
No, but I think that was after it aged. When you tried it
gotcha.
to begin with, that
Okay.
the spruce just hit you right in the
It's like
face.
you were out chewing on an evergreen tree or something.
You had to get
Not that we haven't done that before.
you had to get butter to get the sap off your tongue.
Yeah,
Is what you're saying? Yeah, that was an interesting thing. So that's always cool to do some of that stuff because I don't think around here, I know by us, I haven't really seen much for spruce tip IPAs,
You'll see a few, but not too many around this area.
So, I mean, it's kind of neat that you have stuff that nobody else is really kind of doing, it kind of helps build the reputation a little bit. Speaking of building, my thirst is building.
There you go.
So what do we got on the next one?
The next one here is a cream ale.
Cream ale?
Yep.
Okay.
And that one, it's 5% ABV, 20 IBUs.
Smooth.
That one should have a little bit more of a sweetness to it
Yes.
than the
Yep.
Dalmatian.
Yep. You can definitely taste that sweeter. So when it's a cream ale, what exactly are you using? Because you're not using like actual cream in it.
No, surprisingly, there's no dairy at all in there.
Really?
But
No lactose? Or is there?
No.
Really?
no, but I'm not sure how they originally came up with the term cream ale for them, but they're just a mellower, smooth beer.
That's kind of crazy.
Because it's just nice and smooth, so that
Yeah, I was going to say, because I know Jim and I have talked about it before. It's like, well, do they actually have, I thought maybe it was just like lactose or something,
Yeah.
but it's not even that.
Nope.
Interesting.
First person that made one probably had a reason for it, and then
I was gonna
everybody
say-
else just jumped on the bandwagon. So
Somebody probably said, hey, you got to, brew something. A lot of dairy farms around here, brew something with like milk or cream. Okay, it's cream ale.
yeah.
Did you use it? Well, no, but it's. No, I like that. What are you thinking, Larry, on the score on that?
I'd go probably a 2.8 on the
2.8,
cream
okay.
ale.
say 2.9.
Yeah, so I have to say right around there, 2.9. I'll do that. Brian said 7. I think you said. Yeah. So are any of these, when you like the ones you've had so far, are there any of them that are like really, they're a lot easier to brew than other ones?
Yeah, the cream ale and the Dalmatian are, I would say, my easiest beers to make. And if we're running short, it's the quickest one to make too. So I still like to have them aged for a few weeks, afterward.
Yeah.
But
So not that long ago, you had sent me a picture. I think was it an IPA that you were doing, and you had the bucket sitting there, and it was like bubbling like crazy. So is that? I know it's the gas from the yeast, but is it just that it's going to be a higher ABV?
yeah,
or?
but typically the higher alcohol beers are more violent inside the fermenter, so it gives off a lot more CO2 gas. So yeah, and then that one there, you seen it looked like a lot of foam was coming out of the top of the bucket, and that's as it's fermenting. Your fermenter, the top will fill up with foam, and if it's violent enough, it comes out the dip out the.
So speaking of violent. I'd like to ask if you would share the story when you were homebrewing, and I don't remember which beer it was, but when you remember the story I'm telling, if you wouldn't mind, because I love that story. You remember what beer
it was? A double chocolate oatmeal stout, I believe it was. It was going to be a big beer. It was almost 11%, and I had it in the carboy, and I had just a normal airlock in the top of it, which is a little plastic cylinder, basically has water in it, and it sits there and bubbles.
That keeps air from getting
Yes.
in. Okay.
Yeah, lets the CO2 out. But we were at a family reunion, I believe, and my wife had stayed home, or we were somewhere, and my wife had stayed home, and it was really percolating away. It was getting a lot of gas coming out. And I took the towel off and kind of looked at the glass carboy, and you could really see it moving around inside. And Kelly called me up, and she was all distraught. She's like, she said that the airlock blew out of the carboy. And I was like, what? So I said, well, put it back in. And about 10 minutes later, she called me up again. It blew out again. I get home, there is chocolate stout all over the ceiling in the kitchen, all over the cabinets, the stove, the refrigerator. So the kitchen got a real, well, when I got home, the carboy was now sitting in the middle of the driveway. And so that beer was no good.
Wow, that is crazy.
But yeah, so kitchen got a good cleaning.
Yeah.
Lesson learned there, you get a big beer, you use a very large tube and put it into a big bucket of water.
Yeah, that is just crazy, though. I remember when you had told me that you got their beer all over the ceiling and everything. I was like, wow. I know you and I have talked about it before, but, some of the bigger beers like that, when you get them, they're super sweet. Is that where they add, is it sugar that wasn't converted into alcohol, or is it that they add more to try and cover up?
Typically, they add more.
To try and cover up that boozy
They'll add
flavor?
it in at the end. No, they'll add them in at the end of the boil. Typically, you don't add any more sugar in or that during fermentation.
Okay.
But at the end of the boil, you can add maple syrup into
Sure.
it. You can add corn sugar. But yeah, typically them big beers that are really sweet, they've added more unfermentable sugars into them.
Okay.
So like the corn sugar, there are some that you can put in that will just add the sweetness. That it won't add a lot of alcohol to it.
But I mean, is it just to try and cover up the boozy taste, or what do you think?
No, I think they just want a sweet beer. And if you want a real high octane beer, it's going to be sweet. Just
Right.
because of that, the yeast won't eat all the sugar that's out of it.
Right.
So that's why, yeah.
I was just wondering, because like Avery, you remember them, that brewing and stuff.
Yep.
They had a lot of high ABV beers, but then they were so sweet that it was just like, man.
Typically, what I've noticed myself is that if you got something with that sweet bite like that, it's usually 10% or higher.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can tell that right away without even looking at the bottle.
Yep, exactly. And a lot of those Avery beers would be 12, 14, 17, stuff like that. But that was always the thing. It was just so sweet that you were like, oh, you could, we just didn't, I often wondered, is it just to cover it up or what? But all right, what's the next one we got?
The next one is my Harvest Mosaic IPA. It's 63 IBUs.
Hang on, here's my Jim. Oh,
I think Jim would even like this IPA.
Yeah.
It's
wow, yeah.
6% alcohol.
Okay. Boy, that's got a really smooth.
Yeah, it doesn't have that
It doesn't
hard
have that-
hop bite like a lot of
At the
IPAs
end,
have.
you don't get that.
Yeah, that's why I
don't know how
say
to
I-
describe it, but
I bet Jim would even drink this
yeah,
IPA.
that's pretty darn good. Wow. So how many IBUs did you say?
63.
63. Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that high.
Mm-mm.
So remember, that was one of the things that
Yeah.
I got a hold of Brian about, because Jim and I were talking about. It's like, how do they come up with IBUs? Because like ABV, you can understand how they figured out. So I get a hold of Brian, and he goes, there's a couple ways you can do it. There is did you say like a formula to figure out? He goes, but it's about this long. It takes up like 3 sheets of paper to figure out, and and it was like, so it's just kind of you're guessing, or
No, the program that I use when I'm coming up with my recipes, it calculates what your IBU should be.
Okay.
But yeah, otherwise you have to calculate out the alpha acids and the beta acids in the hops, and you also got to take into account your grain bill.
Oh, because you were said too, like some of the bigger places, they'll have their own, almost like a chemistry lab to test all that stuff to figure it out.
I did one that was 99 IBUs,
Mhm.
but I used too dark of grains, so it looked almost like a brown ale or an amber, kind of that dark color, and you never would. Other than being, when you finished your pint, it felt like you had to scrape your tongue,
Oh, yeah?
from the hops, but you never would guess it when it's 99.
Huh. So it's nothing like the Devil Dog that we had?
No, Devil Dog was horrible.
I was expecting a slap in the face with that one.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, all right, did he forget to put the hops in?
Did you say, no, I wanted the hoppy one?
Yes.
I shouldn't say it was horrible for your listeners. It was a beer that
I've talked
took
about it.
one drink and it burned the whole way
You're
down.
talking Devil Dog.
Yes.
Right? So I think it was the first time that you came up to the camper.
Yep.
And I went to the one liquor store in Sparta, and they had it. It had a little puppy on the label. And I saw it was 100 IBUs. I'm like, well, I got to try it. And it was a big bottle, and oh my gosh, that one was tough. I mean, honestly, wasn't it? It was, we each had one taster glass, and Brian's like, yeah, I already got heartburn. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm on the way. And I'm like, glug, glug, glug. We
Woke
didn't
up
drink.
at 2 a.m. sitting up with heartburn so bad that
But it was like, oh. And then we've had another beer, if I remember right. Now, is 100 the highest? Because I swore I saw somebody who was advertising 102.
you would think so, but there are ones that are higher.
Okay.
I've seen all the way up to 120.
Really?
IBUs, yeah.
Okay. Because I think I had tried when it was 102, and it was nowhere near.
The ones
strong as
that typically are super high like that are like triple IPAs, where they're 11 to, well, all the way up to 17%, because 120-minute IPA is, I think, over 100 IBUs and 17% alcohol.
It's funny because I've had, we've had a number of, IPAs, double, triple. I've had one quadruple, and it wasn't that bad. Honestly, I was expecting it to be super hoppy, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, no, typically theirs have so much alcohol that it counteracts the bitterness.
Well, Dad, what did you think of the
I
IPA?
did that one a solid 36.
Ooh, you jumped her up. Brian, 9?
10.
10.
It's a 10.
No, I liked it. I'm going to go like a 3.5. I really liked it. Like you said, Larry, that when you got done drinking it, you didn't have that. Wasn't that dryness or anything. That was really good.
Well, I'm going to 4 because that is one of my favorite beers down here.
And that was the Harvest Mosaic
Yep.
IPA. Okay.
And then on a side note there, it was the best mistake you made.
What's that?
Well, this recipe normally was 8.2%, and I made it. And at the end of the boil, we normally add in a bunch of sugar to get the alcohol out.
Okay.
And I forgot to do that. I was transferring it, and I seen the bag sitting there. And I'm like, oh.
Wait a minute.
I'm like, well, all right, we're gonna try it. And after we put it on, everyone told me to keep it this way because
Really?
they can have several and not have to worry about driving home.
The
So.
ABV on this was 6?
6.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, see, it's a happy mistake.
Yep.
So what are like some of the favorites down here for your customers, do you think?
I would say the ones we sell the most of is this one, the Harvest Mosaic, Breakfast of Champions Stout, the Cream Ale, and Dalmation are probably the 4 most popular ones.
And then your
Or
fruited
the
wheat
sours.
beers, you were
The
saying.
sours, I can't keep a sour on.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sours will typically last 2 to 3 weeks.
You know what's funny is I always think like sours are more, I always think college town.
Yes.
Like it's going to be the college
agree.
kids. And this is the farthest away from a college town.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the brewers we've been to, it's usually the younger people that
Yeah.
are drinking the sours, but down here it's any age, it's a wide variety of ages that are liking the sour. So
That is crazy. All right. Well, what's next there, Brian?
The next one is the Breakfast of Champions Stout.
Okay. What's the skinny on that?
That is I always call it a cereal stout. It's a sweet stout that I brew it with Reese's Puffs cereal.
Okay. So it's going to have kind of
So
that.
it smells really good when you're making it.
one day I got a text from Bryant with a picture of the boil kettle with all of the cereal at the top. And his question to me was, would it be wrong if I eat this?
Depends. Is it done boiling yet? Or was Oh, wow. Yeah, that is.
This
That's
batch,
smooth.
the peanut butter didn't come through as well on this batch of it. And the chocolate seemed to come through more, but
I was going to say, I definitely get the chocolate. And it's not, we always talk about sometimes when you get stouts, you have almost like a burnt flavor to it,
Yes.
where this doesn't have that, And now that's more because it's the roasted grains?
Yep.
That's what I had thought. That's what I had been saying. And
this one has a lot more chocolate malt in it rather than the roasted.
okay. Yeah, you can definitely taste the chocolate in that.
Now, if you put in the numbers for this one, yep.
Yeah, it's this one is 6.9%,
Okay.
and then well, on the board the IBUs were wrong on the board. It's like 30 IBUs.
Okay. Yeah, I don't get a whole lot of hop to it at all, but that chocolate stands out. I mean, that's
Yep.
So normally you would it be as much of a peanut butter flavor, or is it
No,
kind
it's
of
pretty
muted?
faint.
Okay.
Yeah, but usually you can get some just on the back the back notes.
Okay. Oh, I like that. Boy, I'm going like a 3.8. I like that. I could drink some of those. And then you said it's 6.9.
6.9.
You could drink a few of those. I can see why people like that. That's really good.
I'd go 3.5. I'm still working on getting used to my stouts and porters because I'm not a coffee drinker. So.
Right.
I say 3.7.
Okay.
I do drink coffee, and I like it.
Yeah, it's funny because people, you don't drink coffee, and I'm like, only in a stout.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of funny, and I'm sure you've heard when we've talked about them on the podcast before. But there's some of those stouts that have, if it's a coffee stout, some of them taste like you're chewing on wet coffee grounds, and that's just, to me, is a huge turnoff. And there's other ones where it's really faint. We've had a couple that have been really a really good stout with, the coffee flavor is just right. But sometimes, like I said, I don't know, when I get those ones that it tastes like you're chewing on coffee grounds, I just, I'm not a big fan of that. So, all right, well, I guess we're down to one more. Then I don't know what we're going to do. Oh, yeah, I have probably another beer. So,
well, we'll mix you up a couple of the off the secret menu.
Try
those.
Off of the secret one, yeah. So what is this one?
This one is the Black Helmet IPA.
Okay.
It's a black IPA.
Oh, yeah, you can smell and it's almost not quite as dark as the Breakfast of Champions, but it's definitely dark.
Yep.
What are the numbers on that one?
That one there it's a 6.7% ABV and 50 IBUs.
Okay. Boy, that one is what I'm trying to say, the hop flavor. When you first taste it, it builds up and then it just kind of is gone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Where I was expecting to all of a sudden go, oh, this is going to get dry. And then it goes away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
the roasted grains really
kind of
counteract the bitterness.
Okay.
But yet there is enough bitterness where it's pretty balanced.
Right. Now that is good. Because I've definitely had, you try other black IPAs. And that's the one thing that I've kind of been surprised with Jim, that the black IPAs, he kind of, and I'm sure it's because it kind of counteracts it a little bit, where he's been a little more lenient on some of them.
You get the roasted notes yet, like you wouldn't have stout, but it's...
Yeah, that is good. That is very interesting. Well, I suppose we should score this one first. Larry, what do you think of the Black Helmet IPA?
I'm going to go 3.5 because I like the Black Helmet IPA. I mean, I like IPAs, and that one has a good flavor.
3.6.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3.5 as well. Like I said, I think it's really, I was expecting it to be drier, or, that hoppier kind of thing.
Yep.
And it really, the darkness from the malt, so to speak, really kind of mellowed it out. And I like it.
We've had some black IPAs at different breweries that'll they got that really hot bite, so they almost like slap you in the face,
Yep. Yeah, and that's where I thought this was going to go there, because initially it's almost quite a bit of hot, and then it's just kind of
gone.
You're like, oh, okay, I don't mind that. One thing I think they should look at maybe naming it Lord Helmet. If you've seen Spaceballs, maybe there's a trademark issue there. But
we were trying to come up with a name for it, and then one of the owners was here, and everything was fire themed, so that's where the Black Helmet came in.
Gotcha.
On top of one of the shows that actually got like that one there. It's got the red helmet on.
Oh, yeah.
There is
There's a black helmet on it. Okay, gotcha. Well, yeah, like I said, I don't think, so these were eight beers that Brian brewed, and there wasn't a clunker in the group.
No.
And like I said, that's sometimes that's kind of hard thing to find. There's usually, where they have really good beers, and then all of a sudden there'll be the couple of them that either they're experimenting or they just didn't work.
A lot of the brewers we go to, we always do flights. Yep. We want to try everything. And you're always going to find at least one that's not very good.
Exactly.
But here, all of them are good. So
yeah, that is pretty crazy. Well, once Brian gets back, I'm not sure where he moseyed off to.
He went to get you a couple off.
He's going to go bring a couple off of the super secret menu.
I
Yeah.
think they had one of those little jars so you had to relieve the pressure.
Gotcha. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, while we're waiting here, if you're ever in the Lake Mills, Iowa area, and this is like right on kind of the main drag.
Right on the main drag, yeah.
Right on Main Street. Definitely, stop in to Alarm Brewing here. It was established in 2017, so they're looking for you.
Well,
Oh, the parade.
we'll stay hid for a while.
Yeah, we'll stay in here. So yeah, they've been around for 7 years. You know, and like I said, I do get it. I can see where it's a cool place to hang out.
Yep.
You know, I'm sure it's, for the most part, it's probably pretty mellow. You know,
Yeah, they've had some firefighters in here from Canada, and
really.
you know, like if they're in the area and somebody tells them about this place, and then they'll come down here, and then Brian will usually get a hold of the owners, and 1 or 2 of them will come down and meet with them.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's cool. You know,
They take your pictures, you have to take pictures of the wall, there's a map of Iowa, and then
The badges are from different fire departments.
Fire department. And it's, yeah, so
Yeah, it's from all over.
Yeah, they got the ones that aren't from Iowa, they got around
Yes,
the outside.
yes.
So, yeah, that's cool. Like I said, I give them credit because, you know, like you said, it's the firefighter theme, and it's throughout the whole brewery. You know, where some places you can't figure out what their theme is trying to be.
Right.
You know, they're not consistent. So I do give them credit with that. You know, that it is pretty cool. Holy cow! I hear
I think whatever
he's getting
trying to
crazy
make
back there.
light blue.
Yeah.
So now you're stuck with just the old man for just a few minutes.
So now we can say what we really think about Brian and Larry.
Yeah. This is kind of off the wall story, but there's a friend of ours that we know quite well. Him and his wife came down here one day on a Sunday, and they got here before us because we were late. And they were having a flight, and then they had a pint glass sitting there. And I said, "What's that?" They said, "Well, they tasted beer, and if they didn't like it, they poured it into the glass." And they had the pint glass about full, and they asked him, "Well, what are you going to do with that?" He said, "Well, they'll just throw it away." And Larry said, "Well, let me taste it, you know." Lo and behold, it did not taste bad.
Really? So it's just a mixture of
It
all
was
the.
a mixture of just about everything. You know? They had one that they drank over half of, and the rest of them was just sips out of it. It was outstandingly. You would never expect. You'd think it'd be just herb, but
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because when you think, something like that, I always think of when you go to like between the bluffs and you see that bucket sitting there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
there's no way I'd drink out of the bucket. You know,
right.
but that's kind of wild.
All depends on how hot it is.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, if it's hot enough, you'll drink out of anything.
It's another story about a friend that what he didn't like it, he poured it in a pint glass, and then we all started
He
tasting
slid it over to me, and I asked him what it was. He said, "Well, that's everything we didn't like." So then I asked the bartender, "What is it?" She goes, "Just like they said, everything they didn't like." So I looked at it for, maybe 2 seconds and said, "Oh, let's do it." And it was actually good.
it. Started tasting it, everybody.
You know, one of the things that I think is funny is because we've all been, and I'm sure he's ran into this here too, where you get the people that come in and well, what do you have that's like Miller Lite, whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, in a couple of podcasts, I was talking about, you know, people that drive you to drink. And we were at Industry Brewing in Peoria, and Susie and I were sitting there at the bar. He got a sandwich or something, or nachos, whatever. And then we just had a beer, and these 2 older gentlemen came in and sat down, and they asked, you know, what do you have, or, you know, do you have like Miller Lite? And the bartender's like, well, no, you know, we don't, we brew our own. And he like got almost belligerent.
Yeah.
And she did have, they had like a little, almost like a dorm fridge where they had a couple of, I can't remember, it was Miller Lite or whatever. So she gave them that, right? And I'm just sitting there going, really? You know, because he was being kind of rude about it. She was a very nice bartender, and he was being rude. Well, they drank it, and then they left, you know. And she comes over, and I'm like, what a jerk. And she goes, well, kind of, but, and I'm like, why would you come? Because I thought I was over that, you know, where it wouldn't bother me as much anymore. But I thought, why would you go to a brewery and then get,
Ask for something like
and then get angry with them when they don't have a different company, you know?
I still don't like it either when people go to a brewery. If you're going to go to someplace where you can have something like a Busch Light or a Miller Light, then don't go to a brewery.
Go to a normal bar.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So, well, guys, I think, you know, we can wrap this up, but I'll start with you, Larry. 2 things. One, I mean, of the beers we tried, what would you say your top 1 or 2, like your favorites? And then if you had to recommend one of these to somebody that had never had craft beer before, which one would you recommend?
Well, if I was going to recommend one, like you said, we talked about how most people come in looking for something like a Busch Light or a Mick Golden or whatever. So I usually tell them, hey, try a cream ale or try the Dalmation Ale.
Okay.
My favorite beer is the Mosaic IPA.
Okay.
And I recommend that to a lot of people when they come in. If they tell me that they're an IPA drinker, that's the first one that I'll tell them to try.
Okay.
And I've actually had told some people that came in here that said they don't like IPAs. I'll say, well, just give this one a try. And then next thing you know, they're ordering it. So.
Right. So how about you, Dan? What was your favorites?
Well, my favorite is Dunkelweizen.
Okay.
Mosaic IPA, they're really close. Only 1 point.
Right. A tenth of a point. Yeah. So,
If I'm going to have just to sit down for a good tasting beer on a warm day, I'd say like Dalmation Ale would be my one to.
You'd recommend that too?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'd say honestly, I had a few favorites. The Breakfast of Champions I really liked. I hate to say it, the dark cherry stout, sour I really kind of liked. And then, like you said, the Dunkel and the Black Helmet IPA. Well, all of them, I mean, they were all very good. There wasn't a clunker. So that's good job. We'll talk later when he's not around. But
Well, it's too much work to make beer.
To make that beer, yeah.
Well, my specialty is drinking beer. So.
yeah. And, like I was going to say, honestly, you could recommend almost any of them. But I do agree. I think the cream ale is the first one I'd probably recommend because that was very smooth. And flavor wise, it was good, but it didn't have any kind of, because, like I said before, a lot of times people, they taste a hop and they're like, ugh. It's like there's hops in everything, But I think the cream ale, and then I agree the Dalmatian was really good. I could see those. But I think if anybody came in, they had never had any of those styles, that they're all good. So
Yeah, typically your people that are new to craft beer are the ones that are asking about things.
Right.
Where your seasoned craft beer drinkers, they already know what they want when they look at the menus.
Yeah. And we're usually a little more adventurous.
Yes.
We'll try, this sounds like terrible. Let's try it.
Yeah.
And we've been
I mean,
surprised.
how many places have we been where we tell them that we want one of everything on the menu and they don't believe us to start with?
Jim is even still in awe of when we went to Sioux Falls that weekend, and we tried, it was 125 different beers that we tried.
In one day.
And it was a lot, I'm not going to lie, but it was a good day. So
Yeah.
it was, I mean, that's the thing that I do enjoy about the craft beer industry is just, and it's one side note, it's always weird to me when you go someplace and they don't offer flights.
True.
It's like, why wouldn't you? At least because you're going to sell a bunch. And I know sometimes people are, it's a pain in the butt. Yeah, but then people can try everything, know what they like, and then buy what they like. And,
Right.
So I don't know. It's always weird to me if they don't offer it. But
There is one little brewery over in Lanesboro, Silver Brewing. They don't sell flights. They have taster glasses. How many do you want?
They'll let you taste it. Yeah.
1, 2, you make up your own flight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say, and most places will give you a taste of something if you want, but still, it's just always like, why wouldn't you? I mean, because that's part of the allure to me a little bit. You go somewhere and I want to try them all. And I'm not going to drink a pint glass of all of them because odds are there's going to be a clunker or two in there. So, all right. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for, Brian, thanks for answering some questions that we've had out there. We didn't get too deep into your trade secrets, so it'll be interesting to see what you got coming out. Hopefully it's as good as what we tried. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the Lake Mills, Iowa area, stop in. You're usually around,
Pretty much every weekend.
Pretty much every week. Because now they're open, is it
We're open Thursday through Sunday.
Thursday through Sunday? Okay. And like I said, they've got 8 of their own beers on tap. And you do have a couple guest tap, but it's stuff you don't do.
Right. We always have 4 guest taps right now.
Yeah, so
we always have 1919 root beer for if anyone's kids are with or have a designated driver.
Okay.
We'll have 2 ciders, and then usually just 1 extra guest tap.
Sure.
And it's typically a lighter beer.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this. Like I said, I wanted to get down here and use you as kind of a test thing to let us see, figure out how to interview people and such. So thank you for that. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I hope you enjoyed the whole podcast. And as we always say, I hope your campfire is always warm and your beer is always cold. See ya. Thank you for listening to the Northwoods Beer Guy podcast. If you have a question, a comment, or a beer you'd like us to review, please feel free to send us a message at northwoodsbeerguy@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're on Untappd, look up Northwoods Beer Guy and send a friend request. Until next week, I hope all your campfires are warm and all your beer is cold.